Okay, once you downloaded topology.zip, you open that under the scenes folder. You can see a bunch of files. The one that I want to show you is called torso steps. So open up the torso steps. Like I wouldn't recommend you to just drag it in. You could, when you drag it in, you're actually not opening up the file. You're actually importing the file. So I would just go and import, open it up. It's called torso steps. Right. So I was making, I was, demoing to the other section. So I'm going to delete this. And over here on the right hand side, under the display layers, you can see I have separated my steps into the layers. So step one, I would start with a torso that looks like this. It's kind of like a female body. And then step two is basically just to shape it to look more organic. And then step three is where it diverges. So step three, there are two step three. Step 3A is for the A pose. Step 3T is for the T pose. So let's take a look at the step 3T first. So from step 2 to step 3, what I was preparing was preparing for 4 patches here to be extruded out as the arm. So from step 2 to step 3, basically just shape it so that this becomes the armhole for the arm, and then this is the result. So I'm going to show you how I started. I started out with basically with a cube. Make it bigger, like 10, 20, 30, 50. Yeah, that's about it. And subdivision, the width, how many subdivisions do I want? You actually want even numbers, because with odd numbers you don't have the center line. The center line is important because we want to be able to split the models into halves, and then mirror one side to the other. So having the center lines is important. Now I'm showing you a very conventional way of modeling. Nowadays people use ZBrush and other sculpting tool to create the model without worrying too much about the topology. I would encourage you to explore, because the very conventional way of modeling, you have to think about topology from the beginning. It's somehow more difficult for beginners. So if you know about ZBrush, I would encourage you to use ZBrush and then retopologize it. I will talk about how to retopologize afterwards. But this is just a very old school way of modeling. So I'm preparing the topology for my torso, for how I'm going to do the following steps. And then the vertical subdivision, I will start with 4. We can add more lines later on, but try to keep the number of lines and number of vertices at the minimal at all time. Only increase the details when you need them. And for the depth, just start with 2. Sorry, 2. Right, and then we'll just start shaping. Switch over to the vertex mode and just shape it to look more like a torso. Now it's better to have a picture as a reference, but I don't have any pictures here, so I'm just doing it free-handed. So I'm imagining it to be more like a female torso. So this is where the butt is. Right, something like this. Just to get into a rough shape. No need for details at this stage. Okay, so when I'm at this stage, I have to think about, okay, where is my arms going to grow out of this mesh? I am thinking maybe I'll use these two mesh, but I actually want to split it up into 4 polygons, because if I use this as an extrude, like if I extrude this part as my arms wouldn't have enough details. So I'm going to undo it. So that means we will have to make another cut here. So I'm going to turn it back into object mode and use a multi-cut tool here, multi-cut tool. Or you could simply right-click, shift hold down the shift key and right-click and get to the multi-cut tool. All right. Now, there in Maya, if you're not familiar with Maya, you could invoke these markup menu. These are called markup menu because they just show up where your mouse cursor is. You can right-click to invoke a markup menu, and you can combine the mouse click with keyboard presses. So if you hold down the shift key and right-click, it brings up a different menu. Hold down the control key and right-click and brings you another menu. So explore, combining different key press with the mouse click to give you different things. So hold down the shift and right-click will give me the multi-cut tool as well. All right. So multi-cut could let you just do a cut like that, or do a cut more precisely like this. Right, but let's do it on the side view so it's more symmetric on both sides. So I'm going to do a cut here. Okay, so this will become the armhole for our arm, but let's keep on shaping it to make it look more like a torso. So the side view looks okay to me at this stage, and I'm going to do the top view. So I'm going to shrink it a little bit. Right, so this is the first step. The next step is to shape it look more like this. All right, I would turn on the symmetry because when I move, I don't want to be, I want to be like moving one vertex and have the other vertex on the other side mirroring the same effect. So I'm going to turn on the symmetry. The symmetry option is available on any of these tools here. So if you double click it, you'll find the symmetry sections. And we're going to turn on the symmetry in the object X direction. So now the other side is selected, and we could start shaping it, or we could double click on 2 vertices. Right, so here's a trick. So if you just click on one vertex, then hold down the shift and double click on another vertex, it will try to select the vertices between the two. Right, so yeah, I guess something like this. Right, so now it's time to move to the maybe to the front side. Maybe this should go up a little bit. This should go up. This should go up. Right, time to move to the front. So we're going to hide the other one so I don't see it. So move to the front view. Just keep pushing around. So this is a female body, so I'm going to keep the shoulder a little bit like narrower and keep the waistline a little narrower, higher, a little higher waistline. This should get a little lower. Preparing for the leg as well, so this is the, we should get really narrow. This should get a little narrower. So okay, so for the leg, so look at how, like what I'm trying to do is to preparing for the surface to have the legs grow out of it. So what I'm expecting is I'm expecting to grow my legs out from this, and this 4 surfaces. This is where my legs going to grow out of, and my arms are going to grow out of these 4 pieces. All right. So I'm just gonna go keep on shaping it to look a little bit more natural. Maybe this should go in a little bit. Should go in a little bit. Okay, so I think I'm happy with the shape. It's a big butt. Let's make it smaller. Maybe this should go in even further. Right. We can add details later, right? So this looks good. Let's go back to the face. All right, now we are ready to form our shoulder. So I'm going to select. Hold on just a second. I want to make sure that I don't have any overlapping surface around. Okay, I don't have. Right, so I'm going to select 4 faces, and to extrude, I'm going to use the extrude tool under added mesh, or you could just shift right click, extrude face. Now I'm going to turn off the symmetry before I do the extrude, because if you have symmetry turned on, the extrude tool will have very limited options. It will only allow you to extrude in such a manner, which is not quite useful for us. So I'm going to undo it and turn off the symmetry. So turn off the symmetry, and select these 4 faces and do the extrude again. Now with the symmetry off, the extrude tool will give you more options to play with. You see there's a lot more user interface items here. Right now the XYZ axis is aligned with the surface normal, meaning that if you drag the Z out, they will grow out in the direction of the surface normal. You understand what surface normal is, right? Surface normal is a vector that indicates the direction where the face is facing. But you could change it to have the manipulators align with the world axis. Over here on the bottom left corner is where it's how your world axis are aligned. So this will make it make our life easier, because we can then be more precise in pulling out the surface in the X direction. All right. So these are the options that you can only see when you have the symmetry off. So that's why I turn off the symmetry. All right, so I'm gonna take my, guessing like my arms would be about this long, without the wrist. Okay, just up to the where my wrist is. Right? I'm not gonna model the wrist. Just want to show you a quick way to form a T-pose. And the subdivision, I'm going to add 3 subdivision, because maybe no more, because we need an edge loop for the elbow. Okay. You can just, don't have any subdivision at this stage and just add more subdivision later on. It's really up to you, but I like to add it now. So we also want to scale down a little bit. All right, so that's good. We can then start, moving the vertices around, so to shape the arm into a better shape. Make it narrower, taller. Now you can watch what I did on video later on. I'm having all these recorded. So I'm doing it a little bit quick, but you could revise it later. All right, maybe I'll move these vertices. All right, I'm just gonna grab all these, move them backward a little bit. This back in. Okay, this should move in a little bit. Right, so we have a very thick arm, maybe too thick, but you could just grab this and just shrink it in one direction, in this direction. Right, this maybe should go up a little bit in this direction. It should go up a little bit. Okay, so I am just gonna, maybe I'll add one more line around the shoulder to give it a little bit more details for the deformation. So we know you could use the multi-cut tool, right? You can use the multi-cut tool to cut things up, but there's also another option which is called inserting edge loop, that allows me to add extra edges. It's under under Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop. So once I activated the tool, I can click anywhere I want to insert more edge loop. So this is my shoulder, this is my elbow, so I probably need 3 more edge loops around the shoulder to maintain the deformation. Okay, so this would be it. Right, so this is just one side of my body. Once you're happy with it, you could mirror this side to the other side. So I'm going to delete all the faces on the other side. So switch over to the front view and delete all these faces. Right, and come back to object modes, and I can just mirror. So to mirror, you go to the mesh tool, edit mesh, and or under mesh, I don't remember. Mirror, okay. So it's very similar to how we mirror joins. You tell Maya which direction you want the mirror to happen. It's in the X direction, and so we're going from the positive X to the negative X. So the mirror direction is negative, and we are using the world axis as our origin. So let's apply. So we now have both sides mirrored. All right. So that's the type 1 topology, which is done by simply extruding the arm straight out from the armhole. All right, save it. So I'm going to move this aside, and I'm going to duplicate it so I can. I'm going to use this for. Okay, so I'm going to show you the second topology, which is for preparing an A pose. But I need to do some preparation. So I need to remove this arm. I need to turn on the symmetry and just remove them. Okay, almost done. Okay, all right. So now I'm going to do the other second type of topology with the arm in an A pose. I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to extrude the arm from the armhole. Extrude, but this time we're gonna only extrude up to here. This is our shoulder, and we're gonna use the bottom faces to extrude the arm out. But I want actually I want 4 faces so that I would have enough details for the arm. So we're gonna add a subdivision to 2. Right, so now I have the faces down below for the arm, but let's shape it a little bit better. Okay, I'm going to shape it better, but I want to use a better tool for this. Now, pushing vertex around is very slow and tedious, so I would use another set of tools under Maya, under the sculpting shelf. You will find so you have modeling and sculpting, right? So under the sculpting tool, there's a very handy tool. It's called pull a single vertex along a surface in any direction. Right. So basically, you could use this tool to grab a bunch of vertex and move around. All right. So the brush stroke is extremely big right now, but you can double click and scale down the size. Or you could, in Maya, any brush size can be scaled by holding down the B for boy, and then drag to change the brush size. In Maya, hold down the B and just drag to change the brush size. So I'm going to use this tool to quickly shape my shoulder. Okay, so I think this should be good. I'm going to use these 4 faces to extrude my arm out. Okay, now this time I don't want to use the, oh yeah, I can use the wheel alignment to just drag the arm out. So I think the A pose should be something like this. Yeah, something like that. Okay. So scale it down a little bit. I like to use, sometimes I like to change the axis orientation to normal. Why is it not following the normal? Change it to normal. Component. All right. So all right. Let me show you this really neat trick. So normally the tool would have the axis orientation aligned to the objects or the world, but if you change it to component, it will align this way, so I can be more precise in controlling how I want to change in a very specific direction. Okay, then I can just add, use the insert edge loop to add more edge around the elbow and maybe the shoulder and the forearm, and then use the sculpt tool to sort of like shape it better. Okay, so that's the basic workflow. I'll try to upload the video as soon as possible, but you could. I would encourage you to look at the examples that I found in Sketchfab. I call this type 1 is I call this type 1 for the T pose and type 2 for the A pose, and I found on Sketchfab 2 very good examples for type 1 and type 2. So this is the type 1. Let me just drag it over here. And this is type 2. So let's turn on the wireframe. Turn on the wireframe. Right, so you can clearly see. Now, how do you tell which one is type 1 and which one is type 2? If you see a shape like this that resembles a corner of a cube, you know a corner of a cube has a vertex connected to 3 lines, and you know that this comes from our type 2 topology. So we have this sort of like a vertex connected to 3 edges, and that's an indication that it has this topology. So you can see that. So the one on the right, you can see, I mean, this one also has a lot of details in articulating the shape of the shoulder. It's recording. Okay, so we're going to turn this into a live object so that we can draw new polygons on top of it. In the shelf here, you will see a bunch of magnets. Do you see the magnets where my cursor is pointing? On the right, there is a make the selected objects live. We're going to make it live. Right, so when this is enabled, your objects turns into a greenish object. You can't select it, but you can, if you put things on it, if you, let's say, if you put a sphere, let's make it smaller, and you just drag it, let's make it smaller. It will always stick to that surface. So wherever I move, the sphere will always stick to the surface. It will always stick to the first surface wherever I move. So that's the purpose of the live object. Whatever object you put onto it, it will stick to the live object. So what we're going to do is to use something called in the modeling toolkit. On the right hand side, if you can expand and show the modeling toolkit, there's something called a quad draw. Quad draw is a very handy tool. Have I turned on my mic? Yeah, I have my mic turned on. Okay. So let's activate the quad draw tool. So once the quad draw tool is activated, you could, let's start somewhere. Let's start with a hand. Okay. You can click on it to start drawing vertices. And once you have 4 vertices, you can form a polygon. And then you hold down the Shift key. It will give you a suggestion. Do you want to create a polygon here? And if you want to do it, you can commit, and by clicking on it, it will form a polygon. You can continue to create more points, and press the Shift key. It will give you a suggestion. Click and create a polygon. Okay. So, and then once you have a polygon created, you can adjust it. It will always stick to the live object. It will always stick to the live object. So you could use this method to create a new mesh that wraps around your live objects. Let me show you a few more tips about how you use the quad draw. The quad draw requires a bunch of keyboard and mouse coordination. So with the middle mouse, hold down the Alt and okay, hold down the Alt key on the keyboard, and sorry, not the Alt, not the Alt, what is it? Hold down the Tab. Hold down the Tab key. You could then extrude. Hold down the Tab. Allows you to extrude. So I can then quickly extrude out a strip of polygon. Hold down the Tab and drag, extrude. Okay, so hold down the Tab and then left click, drag, left click, like there, like your mouse have like 3 buttons, right? Left, middle, and right. If you hold down the Tab and then middle mouse drag, you can drag out more edge, extrude more edges. So I think this is a good way to, this is one way to retopologize your mesh. You have to do it manually. There's really no shortcut. There's no automatic way to retopologize. You could use some automatic tool to retopologize, but it's not going to give you the best result for animation. Transitioning from high to low density. Okay, before we look at these more simplified versions of topology, let's look at some examples. Very often, when you create your character, at some point you will have a situation like this. You have one part of your model with a lot of details, but the other part of your models with a lot less details. And how do you merge from the high density part to a lower density part? Right now what you see is not an ideal case because I have polygons with more than 4 sides. When we model at a certain point, we would add more details and make the mesh rounder, right? So we would do something, we would do a smooth to make it rounder, right? Notice how when I smooth the flow, the topology, how the line flows pretty much remain very similar to what it was before, right? But if I accidentally make one face more than 4-sided, so I'm going to intentionally make a cut here just to make, some faces have more than 4 sides. So this face and this face here are 5-sided. What happens if when I do this and I smooth it, you see, it would create something like this in the smooth mesh, and that could be a problem because something like that, when you deform, this may deform and create artifacts. It may deform in such a way that this may get pushed inside, and then you will see some really unwanted shadows or unwanted colors over there. So you actually don't want this to happen. All right, so I just made a cut to make this surface five-sided, but the problem is that with many-sided surface, once you deform it, the surface becomes non-planar, meaning that it's no longer flat. And when it's no longer flat, Maya will have difficulty, actually not only Maya, but most rendering software will have difficulty trying to determine how to render this surface. Because if it's non-planar, okay, right now Maya added another edge around here, but not every renderer understands how to render this. So you might get unpredictable results in rendering, because this face is now not a plane, not a flat surface. Now, four-sided polygons also can become non-planar, but we prefer four-sided over n-sided because four-sided polygons can keep the flow of the topology relatively similar when you smooth things out. Where are my mesh? Yeah. All right, so I need to introduce some new terminology. So we did this last time. Have you heard of this? Quads stands for quadrilateral, meaning that four-sided. Tries, triangles, three-sided. And when you have n-sided, you know, polygons with more than four sides, we call them n-sided or n-gons, n-sided polygons. N-sided polygons are non-planar. Quads are also non-planar. Tries are planar. You cannot make a triangle that is non-planar. But we prefer quads because quads deform predictably and they generate predictable results when smoothing. Tries would also generate unpredictable results when smoothing. It will disrupt your edge flow. It will disrupt your edge flow. What I mean by that is, let's go back to my torso. Right, so let's select some edges. Right, so, come on. Edge. Right, so here's one edge loop. And here's another edge loop around the waist. Here's an edge loop vertically around the whole body. These are called edge loops. If you have, now if I smooth these objects with only quads on it, if I smooth it, I still maintain the edge loop. I still have the edge loop, you know, around the body. I still have edge loops around the waist, edge loops around the arm. The edge loops are still there. I'm not disrupting the edge loop, but if I have n-gons in my mesh, which I, you know, would make a cut here, right, and smooth this. I no longer have any edge. I can't. Well, there's one here, but this cannot form an edge loop around the waist anymore. So the edge loop is disrupted here. Right? See, it doesn't form a complete loop. You might be wondering why. Yeah, why? What's so important about edge loops? Well, it's convenience. If you can keep the edge loops, it makes there's a lot of modeling. It makes your modeling a little easier if you have edge loop, because you can easily grab a loop and move that loop, shift that loop by, you know, offset or slide edge loop. So you can slide the loop along the surface, or you can slide the loop around the surface. But if you don't have an edge loop, then it just makes your life a little bit more complicated. You have to do multiple steps to correct something. Edge loops are good. You want to keep edge loops as much as possible. Okay, so let's go back to our ARM problem. So I just explained why we don't want n-gon. So how do we get rid of that if we end up with a topology like this, going from one mesh high dense area to a low density area? Well, there are two strategies. We could create a branching structure, or we could create a radiating structure. So a branching structure, if you look closely, let's go to our example. This is the final result. So a branching structure allows you to maintain the four-sided polygons. So if you look closely, this face here, it's not a triangle. It's actually a quad. It has four sides, right? It has four sides, not three sides. If you look at this example here, here is a branching structure near the knuckle. Near the knuckle area, there's a branching structure, right? It's very similar to what I have here. I have the branching happening around the wrist, but I think this example is better. Think about where do you want the branching structure to happen. You want it to happen at a relatively flat area. Because the branching structure will inevitably create a little bit of unevenness on the surface. So when you deform, you're going to see the branching structure when things deform. So I think it's good to be here because it's sort of like conform to the shape of the knuckle. The branching structure is sort of like conform to the knuckle. So to go from this to create a branching structure, I can show you how to do it. I'm going to create a cuts. So I need to identify where my branching structure is going to happen. So it's going to probably go from here to here. Hit enter and do it again from here to here. All right, and then what I can do is to delete these three edges. Okay, I'm going to delete these three edges. And now when you delete an edge, you don't just hit the delete, because if you do that, it actually has some leftover vertex. There's a vertex there that was originally connected to the edge. It will still remain there. It will still make the surface an n-gon. You will still end up with an n-gon. So don't just hit delete to delete the edge. You want to do a delete that cleans up all the remaining vertices. You do it by invoking the delete edge, which is somewhere, delete edge, and the shortcut key is control delete. Control delete, it will clean up all the remaining vertex. So you end up with a perfect quad here. Wait, hold on. I haven't really fixed the problem. So this is still a 5-sided n-gons. Let me see. How did I fix that? Okay, I got it. Okay, I got it. So I just do another cut from here to here and then to here. And then delete these 3 edge. Right, so I have quartz everywhere. Right. So I'm going to do the same thing for this. Cut, and delete these 3 edges. Yeah, so that's a branching structure. Now, a radiating structure, I don't have an example, but you can look up some examples on, here. Here's a radiating structure. A radiating structure usually is good for areas like eye sockets or the mouth, or something, like what do you call this in English? Belly button, yes, belly button. Radiating structure, nipples, the chest. It's good area for radiating structure. Any other radiating structure here? Here's another radiating structure near the thumb area. Radiating structure usually is formed in extrude. When you extrude, you would naturally form a radiating structure. All right, so I would encourage you to all just to look at more examples from Sketchfab, just to understand how people do their work. This is learning from others is the best way to learn. Okay, so I'm going to stop here.